So I just want to come back to this equity issue because I think, especially within it coming from an environmental movement place, sustainable development, I think for education, this is something Jonathan came up with. We came up with this idea of intergenerational and intragenerational equity. And it really kind of gets to the heart of what sustainable development is about. The kind of, it's wrong for one generation because we're at the expense of future generations. So it's that kind of, what does that mean about what resources we use? And this kind of, who is entitled to different chunks of the resources that are available. It's wrong, it's quite a strong statement, it's wrong to further enrich the world's wealthy elites when the basic needs of the vast majority of humans are still unmet. So these are the kind of really fundamental questions we're dealing with in education and in our schools that get to the heart of the moral and values of what education could or needs to be about. And to remind us that actually it is about our children's future. It's not just about creating a business. It's not just about providing kind of services in this abstract way. It is really about the kids, and that's what the research actually really tells us. Is the inspiration, the energy is all about them. And as much as some of my workshops have been criticised that I emphasise too much some of the strategic bits, but I want to say straight up that this workshop is an opportunity for us to think about the strategic side of things, but with holding the kind of kids in mind, that actually the real inspiration comes from what you're doing in your localities, in your communities, back in your schools. And it's just about how can we create some enabling environments around that to achieve it. So, the National College, with ourselves, the Institute of Education, we're running this project which was really trying to develop practice with 56 school leaders, and they created a community of practices to try to take forward sustainable schools, and we just left it up to them really. We ended up with 56 schools and 56 communities of practice, but the main thing here was a lot of energy was created about it. And what's emerging is we're starting to understand the spectrum or the journey of where schools are and where they're going. So this is a strong framing piece I'm going to use for this workshop. And we're going to kind of have a think about this in a minute, of where you think you might be, or where the schools you're working with might be. So, and this is something we've been using at Forum for about 10 years now with businesses and other public sector bodies, and we've adapted it slightly to fit schools. So a beginner is usually starting with that individual person or a couple of people in the school who are really interested and want to do something about sustainability. They probably have stuff going on in the school, most of it compliance-based, or most of it just interesting projects. But they aren't really kind of systematically thinking about it. And a beginner's not, a bad place to be. Actually, in some of our things we actually have something that's pre-beginner, which is kind of like, haven't even thought about it yet, but we thought that's a bit negative. And a lot of the way that people start is through practice development. And some of that practice development can be absolutely incredible. So I don't want to make judgments to go through the spectrum as if saying that when you go through it, that you're not absolutely amazing when you're a performer. Because at the performance level, I've seen the most incredible, inspiring, actually probably educationally changing experience that kids have gone through because of those projects. There's usually senior level buy-in, i.e. they're allowing these activities to happen in their school, and it might be written in there as part of it. So there might be a green flag in eco schools, and it's really inspiring. There's usually a huge amount of pupil engagement. And to get to that, the really first step of change is through masses of projects and energise and creating value about why sustainability is important and what it means to our school. What's emerging from some of the schools that we've been working with and also out there is at some point a school, I feel, needs to stop, and this is my kind of big thing, and say, okay, we're working with our pupils and we're creating a lot of change and a lot of educational experiences. But what does this mean for us as an organisation? What does this mean for the way we run our whole school? So strategic decisions then have to be made. And actually one leader said this to me really well, and we were talking about transactional analysis and saying that actually what happens at the beginning stages is almost us as adults kind of go down to the children's level and almost kind of interact with them and go back to kind of having a really child-to-child kind of experience and really enjoying sustainability and just kind of finding it that energy and excitement about it. And actually what happens at the strategic integration level is not kind of becoming the adult and putting it down to child, but there's something about saying, actually, we're going to become learners together here, we're going to become adults together here. How can we help these kids, provide a framework for them to still lead this agenda, but help design the curriculum, help design the development plan? And what does it mean to be an adult? And how does that mean to interact with the children of our school? So we've had this big debate about what does pupil leadership mean. And this phase is sort of saying we need to, as people who run schools or interact in the schools, take on those kind of policy and strategic choices. And what is the process of doing that? So how do we make the whole school engage with it? How do we see this as a school improvement opportunity? How does it raise our attainment and achievement? How does it relate to Every Child Matters, or whatever the next policy agenda might be out of government? So that in itself are two big kind of shifts. The final one, which I don't think we're not there yet, is and I think, let me try to find a way to phrase this. I think when you become pioneer, or I think all the leaders are doing are asking questions about what it means to be becoming really pioneer, is when you start asking questions about the education system itself. So when you start asking the centre for how do we value schools differently? What does it mean for me to lead my community? Not just to contribute to my community, but really create public value in my community. How do I transform our locality? How do I use what I'm doing in my school to influence policymakers? What does it mean to lead for moral purpose? Who am I as a leader? And asking some of those real fundamental questions. And I don't think we are anywhere close to having schools that could say this, because what really needs to happen to be pioneering is the whole system needs to shift together. But I think to be a leader who is seeking to be pioneering, there's something about an educational transformation that needs to occur. I'm going to pause there, because I think there's a lot to take in. And what I'd like you to do is just talk in twos and threes, and kind of say, okay, where are we at? What does this say for my journey? Oh my goodness, I've never thought of it like this. I don't understand it. Could you help me explain it to me? Just spend 5 to 10 minutes just talking to the person next to you and say, if I was to put myself on this, and to say that it's linear, but I know schools who are still doing loads of this and trying to think about this, but haven't thought about this. You know, so I think there's different bits of it. But just think, where are you? Does that work? What does it say about your own journey and what you might need to do? So and introduce yourself to other people.